If you're over 70, you've earned the right to live lighter, wiser, and happier. But many don't. Why? Because they carry things that no longer serve them. And happiness at this age is less about what you gain and more about what you let go. What you're about to hear isn't feel-good advice. It's a reality check and a path forward. Because if you stay until the end, you'll hear the one mindset shift that instantly rewires how you experience joy no matter how old you are. And that final point, it's the one no one ever says, but everyone needs. Remove regret. Regret is one of the heaviest burdens a human being can carry. Not because it hurts the body, but because it haunts the mind. It's not pain that lives in your muscles. It's pain that lives in your memory. And the older you get, the more chances regret has to sneak in. You think about the things you didn't say, the chances you didn't take, the time you didn't spend. You replay conversations, decisions, paths you could have walked, and suddenly your present moment isn't yours anymore. You've surrendered it to a past that can't be changed. But here's the truth, most people won't say out loud, you can't fix yesterday, it's over. And no amount of mental replays will bring it back. Regret is like a movie on loop, and every time you hit play, it drains your spirit a little more. It fills your chest with tension. It clouds your mind with what if. It keeps you anchored to a place you no longer like. And the longer you stay there, the harder it is to breathe where you are now. You're not aging, you're carrying a weight. That was never meant to be permanent. We all have things we wish we could go back and do differently. That's human. That's the sign of growth. But regret only becomes toxic when you refuse to let it go. You start thinking that your past defines you, that one mistake cancels out all the good you've done, that your worst moment is your truest self. But that's a lie. You are not your past. You are what you choose to become after it. And the strange thing is, the very events that bring the most regret are often the ones that teach us the most. The failures, the missed chances, the harsh words, the lost time. They hurt, but they shape you. They force you to see deeper, think clearer, love better. Without those mistakes, you wouldn't have the wisdom you carry now. Without the mess, there would be no message. So why bury yourself under shame? Why let regret hold the pen when you're still writing your story? Forgiveness isn't just for others. It's for yourself. Not because you're excusing what happened, but because you're finally ready to stop bleeding into every moment with a wound from the past. That old version of you, the one who didn't know better, didn't speak up, didn't act fast enough, that version is gone. You're here now. And the only question that matters is, what are you going to do with this version of you? You can't change the ending of a story that already happened, but you can change the meaning you give it. You can decide that regret won't be a prison but a teacher. That reflection will replace rumination. That growth will replace guilt. You don't have to forget your past, but you do have to stop living in it. Your body is here, your breath is here. And every moment spent in regret is a moment robbed from what you could still build, still give, still experience. Let go of I should have, replace it with now I know. Let go of I failed. Replace it with I learned. Let go of it's too late. Replace it with it starts now. You can't control how your story began, but you can decide how it ends and whether it ends with sorrow or with peace. Regret doesn't create peace. Reflection does. Reflection says, I see what happened, I take responsibility. I carry the lesson, not the shame. And that lesson becomes your compass. It becomes your guidance for how you treat others, how you speak to yourself, how you navigate what's left of your time. That's real wisdom. That's what age is meant to bring, not perfection, but perspective. And here's the part no one tells you. The people you think you've let down, most of them already forgave you, they moved on. They saw the good in you, even when you couldn't. The only one still punishing you is you. And you don't need to carry that anymore. You were never meant to be flawless. You were meant to be whole. That includes your wounds, your regrets, your moments of weakness. But those don't define you. They refine you. So stop dragging the weight, set it down, look at it, learn from it, and walk forward lighter. Because the life in front of you deserves your full presence, and you can't be present if you're still chained to the past. You are not what you regret. You are what you've chosen to become since. Remove the need to be right. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes with age, not from raising your voice, but from lowering your need to be right. Somewhere along the way, as the years stack up and experience teaches you more than books ever could, you realize that peace and correctness are often at war with each other. And more often than not, peace wins. In youth, we argue to prove something. We correct others to feel smart. We defend our opinions like castles, afraid that if someone disagrees, it means we're less. But, as the decades pass, you start to see how small that game really is. You begin to notice how exhausting it is to always need to be right. You replay arguments that went nowhere. You remember conversations where you got the final word but lost the connection. You start to feel that being correct in facts is not the same as being aligned in spirit. Especially after 70, you begin to understand something most people miss. Choosing silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. It takes strength to pause when someone says something wrong, not because you agree, but because you know the correction would cost more than it's worth. It would create friction where there could be flow. It would plant defensiveness where there could be openness. And most of all, it would serve your ego, not your peace. Letting go of the need to be right doesn't mean you don't care about truth. It means you've come to value peace over performance. You've learned that most people don't remember what you said. They remember how they felt in your presence. Were they judged, or were they heard? Were they lectured, or were they welcomed? Every time you resist the urge to correct someone, you create space. Space for the relationship to breathe. For the conversation to continue. For respect to deepen. Not because you agreed, but because you chose connection over control. And here's the powerful part. When you stop trying to be right all the time, you become more open. You start learning again. You hear new perspectives. You become someone others feel safe around. They know they can speak freely without being shut down. And ironically, this makes people more willing to hear you. Not because you're louder, but because you're lighter. There is a certain dignity in letting others have their opinion. Even when it's flawed, even when it doesn't match your truth. You understand that everyone sees the world through their own lens, shaped by their pain, their upbringing, their season of life. And sometimes what people need isn't correction, it's compassion. They don't need you to win the debate. They need you to listen with patience, to nod with kindness, to let the moment pass without tension. And yes, this is hard, especially when you know you're right. When someone shares misinformation, when someone speaks carelessly, but every time you choose silence, every time you choose stillness over self-righteousness, you build inner strength. You become the grounded one in the room, the presence others look to not because you dominate, but because you embody grace. That doesn't mean you stay silent in moments of injustice. There's a difference between letting go of ego and abandoning your values. Speak up when it matters, but don't waste your breath where it doesn't. Pick your battles with the discernment of someone who's lived enough years to know that most arguments solve nothing. Most debates don't end in truth, they end in distance. And at this stage of life, connection matters more than correction. So when someone says something you disagree with, ask yourself, is it worth it? Will this improve the relationship? Will this elevate the moment? Or am I just trying to win? Often, you'll find that the most powerful move is not to speak, but to simply listen, nod, smile, let it pass like a breeze. And in doing so, you keep your energy intact. You walk away with peace in your chest, not adrenaline from another emotional sparring match. This is especially true with family, with younger generations, with old friends who think differently now. Let them speak, let them grow. Let them be wrong if they must. Your silence doesn't mean you're defeated, it means you're mature. It means you've climbed enough mountains to know which ones aren't worth the effort. You don't need to win every debate, you don't need to fix every detail. You don't need to be the smartest voice in the room. You just need to be the calmest. Because calm speaks louder than correctness. And presence, true loving peaceful presence speaks louder than pride. Remove clutter, physical and mental. Clutter doesn't always look like a mess. Sometimes it's folded neatly in drawers, stacked in boxes in the garage, hung in closets with tags still attached. Other times it's invisible, buried in your mind as worry, regret, or noise. But whether physical or mental, clutter drains energy. It takes up space that your soul desperately needs to breathe. And as you age, the cost of holding on to too much, both in your environment and in your thoughts, becomes heavier than you realize. Let's start with the physical. Walk through your home and notice what's around you. The shelves, the drawers, the piles of paper you've been meaning to sort through, old tools you no longer use, clothes that no longer fit, manuals for appliances you don't even own anymore, trinkets you've kept just in case. It doesn't seem like much at first, but every item is a decision that's been delayed. A corner of energy left unresolved, and over time, that adds up. Every time you pass that pile or open that stuffed drawer, your brain registers it. Even if you don't, it feels the tension of unfinished business, of things kept out of fear or guilt instead of usefulness or joy. Clearing your space isn't about minimalism for the sake of trend, it's about liberation. Because every object you remove creates room to think, to breathe, to be, and this becomes even more important as you grow older. Why? Because decision fatigue is real. Cognitive clarity matters more now than ever. When your space is full of distraction, so is your mind. And when your home is clean, light, and intentional, your thoughts follow. Your nervous system relaxes. Your body feels less stressed in its own environment. The outer mirrors the inner. But clutter isn't just in your house, it's also in your head. Old conversations that still bother you. Mistakes you still punish yourself for. Worries about things that might never happen. Grudges you've been silently carrying for years. These aren't just harmless mental habits. They are energetic anchors. They pull your attention away from the present and keep you stuck in loops. Can't grow from you feel tired, distracted, foggy. Not because of age, but because your mind is crowded. Mental clutter is sneaky. It hides behind busyness. It disguises itself as being prepared or cautious, but underneath, it is often fear. Fear of change, fear of forgetting, fear of letting go. The thought of tossing old letters or clearing a drawer filled with memories might feel like erasing your past. But you're not erasing, you're releasing. You're choosing to live with what lifts you, not what lingers around as weight. So how do you begin? Start small. One drawer, one bag, one outdated thought. Ask yourself, do I still need this? Do I still want this? Or am I just used to having it around? Then take a breath and let it go. Feel the freedom in that. Feel the space it creates, not just in your closet, but in your spirit. Because every object you discard, every mental loop you interrupt, tells your brain, we are no longer trapped in the past. We are here, now, free. Simplicity is not emptiness, it's intentionality. It's having less so that you can feel more. So that your day isn't spent managing things, but living. So that your energy isn't tied up in worry or dust, but directed toward clarity, creativity, connection. This isn't about having a clean house. It's about having a clear life. A life with room for new thoughts, new people, new emotions, even in your later years. Because you are never too old to create space for something better. And, let's be honest, there's a reason we hold on to clutter. Sometimes it gives us a sense of identity, a timeline of who we've been, a safety net. But your identity doesn't live in old clothes or broken furniture. It lives in how you show up now in your presence, in the energy you bring to a conversation, in the calm you carry. When your surroundings reflect peace, you don't need to throw everything away. But you do need to look at what no longer serves you, and ask yourself if you're willing to trade your peace for that thing. Is the guilt of keeping it worth the stress of never feeling free? Is the story it holds worth more than the space it occupies? The less you carry, the lighter you become, physically, mentally, emotionally. And that lightness, it's not just relief, it's power, it's movement, it's the feeling of being in control of your life again, not buried beneath it. You begin to feel capable, more focused, more alive, Because your attention isn't being drained by clutter. It's finally yours again. So take the time. Go drawer by drawer, thought by thought, grudge by grudge. Clear what needs to go. Keep what feeds your soul. And remember, the more space you create, the more room you have for life to enter again. Remove comparison. At a certain age, something unexpected happens. You've lived through 7 decades, maybe more. You've raised families, built careers, buried loved ones, reinvented yourself more than once. You've won and lost. You've healed and endured. You've watched the world change. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a familiar whisper still sneaks in. Look at what they're doing. Should I be doing more? This is the trap of comparison. And yes, it still shows up, even in your 70s, even in your 80s, even when logically you know better. It shows up when you scroll through photos of friends traveling, when someone talks about their retirement home upgrade, or when you hear how someone's grandkids visit every weekend. It creeps into your thinking quietly, not as envy, but as doubt, as this subtle question, am I falling behind? But the truth is, after 70, there is no such thing as behind. There's no leaderboard, no race, no scale to measure how well you're aging compared to others. Your life is not a comparison chart. It's a singular, sacred path walked only by you. And the more you measure it by someone else's mile markers, the more disconnected you become from your own meaning. You see, what others are doing with their age has nothing to do with what you are meant to do with yours. Their energy, their resources, their health, their relationships, none of it matches your exact history. You are not in the same body, the same story, or the same moment as anyone else. And trying to match their steps will only leave you off balance. Comparison also steals joy. Not because your life lacks something, but because your attention is pointed in the wrong direction. You stop seeing what's working. You stop appreciating your small rituals, your quiet mornings, your familiar comforts, your hard-earned wisdom. You start chasing a version of success that was never yours to chase. And with that shift in focus, peace starts to fade. But here's what comparison can't take unless you let it. Your purpose, your presence, your moment. You don't need to travel the world to feel alive. You don't need a younger body to move with grace. You don't need applause or admiration to know your worth. You just need to return to yourself, because everything meaningful lives there, in your rhythm, your values, your voice. So how do you remove comparison? You start by noticing when it shows up. Is it when you hear someone else's story? When you see their highlight reel? When you feel tired and they seem energized? Become aware of the pattern, not to shame yourself, but to interrupt it. To remind yourself gently and firmly, that's their life, this is mine, and this life matters. You also take inventory of what you've survived, what you've built, what you've let go of, what you've chosen to hold. No one sees the full weight of your journey but you. So don't discount it just because someone else's looks shinier in the moment. You've made it through more than most people know. Don't let a passing glance at someone else's chapter make you question the power of your own book. And finally, you shift your gaze inward. You stop measuring yourself by what others are doing and start asking, what do I need today to feel grounded? What brings me peace? What brings me joy? What makes me proud, not in comparison, but in truth? Maybe it's a simple walk. Maybe it's making someone laugh. Maybe it's finishing a book. Maybe it's mentoring someone younger. These are the real victories, the ones that don't show up online but change you deeply from within. The truth is, aging is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more yourself, more honest, more at ease, more free from the noise of comparison that dominated your younger years. At this stage, the goal is not to match anyone, it's to be whole, to live with clarity, to focus on what truly matters, and to stop trading your peace for illusions that were never meant to be yours. You are not late, you're not too late, you're just in time, you are not behind, you're not too old to begin something beautiful, you are not late to your purpose, and you are not irrelevant in a world that moves too fast. You are here, breathing, present, aware, and that means there's still life in you that the world needs to see. You don't have to compare. You don't have to measure yourself against younger people, louder voices, or faster timelines. That's not your lane. That's not your truth. You were never here to keep pace. You were here to keep presence, to live on your terms, in your time, in your way. And the moment you stop measuring, you start thriving. Somewhere along the way, though, many people begin to hide their brilliance. Not because it's gone, but because the world has convinced them that age makes them invisible. That youth is all that matters. That once you reach a certain number, your value fades. But that's the lie. That's the great theft of modern life. Because right now, inside you are gifts that have been formed over years of living, losing, learning, and getting back up. These are not theoretical ideas. They are lived truths. And the world doesn't need another trend. It needs your truth. But here's the thing about unused gifts. They don't go quietly. They rust, they ache, they make you restless in your silence. And maybe you felt it, that slow pull inside your chest when you sit still too long. That nudge that says, I still have more to give. That whisper that won't go away, no matter how much you tell yourself it's too late. It's not too late, it never was. That voice isn't a warning, it's an invitation. You still have time, not for everything, but for what matters. Whether it's starting that little garden you always dreamed about, writing the story that's been buried inside your soul, or passing down your knowledge to someone who desperately needs it, you still have time to give the world something only you can give. Because nobody else has lived your life. Nobody else has walked your path, carried your burdens, celebrated your wins, or survived your losses the way you have. And that makes you invaluable. There are people right now, maybe in your family, maybe in your community, maybe across the world, who are struggling with battles you've already overcome. They are waiting for a light, and that light, it might just be your story, your wisdom, your presence. A conversation you didn't think mattered could become a lifeline for someone else. But they'll never receive it if you keep it locked inside. So why stay quiet? Why let the fear of not being perfect silence what could be powerful? You've already lived through things people couldn't even imagine. You've already conquered battles that others are just now stepping into. Your age is not a weakness, it's your edge. Don't let your gifts gather dust. Don't let years of growth go unspoken. Speak right, share, teach, mentor, fix something with your hands. Tell someone what you've learned even if they don't ask. Because when you start to give again from your soul and not your ego, you come alive again. Your energy rises. Your shoulders pull back. Your smile deepens. You remember who you are. And don't forget this. Sometimes the smallest action has the biggest ripple. A story told in passing. A recipe shared from memory. A smile offered with wisdom behind it. That's impact. That's legacy. Legacy isn't what you leave behind when you die. It's what you give away while you're still alive. Now look at your life. Look at the weight you've carried that doesn't belong to you anymore. Some relationships you've outgrown. Some people drain you. Even if you've known them for years, it doesn't make you heartless to step away. It makes you wise. Protect your peace. Love doesn't require sacrifice at the cost of your spirit. If someone's presence makes you feel small, anxious, or always walking on eggshells, let that be a boundary, not a badge of honor. And while we're at it, release the fear of aging. Wrinkles are not flaws, they are stories. Slower steps are not weakness, they are proof you've walked far. The world tells you aging is decline, but the truth is, aging is awakening. You're not running out of time. You're running out of reasons to waste it. You are not too late. You are not too old to heal, to grow, to change your diet, to walk more, to try something new.